And he has been with a lot of the organizations that keep the speaking industry prospering. And what he brings is a long expertise in speaking. So he's a kind of a grand seigneur in the speaking world. Listen, from the man himself, Bob the Idea Man Hooey.
Ladies and gentlemen, live at the Apollo Theater. That's you. That's me. We're having fun. But I want to talk to you today about some interesting things about our industry and about you as players in our industry. Now, mastery takes many forms. You know, the arts, the sciences, business, and speaking. The thing I've learned over the years is masters learn by doing, and they learn from other masters. And those of us in the speaking business, as we seek to master our industry, to master our skills, we need to learn from other people. And one of the things that we've heard yesterday was we need to learn to ask. One of the things that I have learned over the years is people are more willing to give than I was to ask. When I asked for help, they would give me help and then help me grow. So my opportunity today is to return some of that to you. I grew up in a really small town. Well, actually, I live in an even smaller town now, in northern Alberta, Canada. I wouldn't say it's small, but there's a sign on the edge of town that says, "Last one out, please turn off the light." And it's true. But growing up on the prairies, especially in the wintertime because there wasn't much to do because it was so cold outside, I devoured magazines like National Geographic. And I imagined what it was going to be like to grow up and be able to travel the world and see some of the great churches and the great buildings and the great beaches around the world. Things like Sagrada Familia, Westminster Abbey, and St. Peter's Basilica, and of course Notre Dame. Now, like many of you, I was heartbroken when I saw her burning. And last night on the boat, we stopped at the Eiffel Tower and it was twinkling and doing this, which made you feel good. And then we continued along, and all of a sudden there was this dark building, not lit like the last time I saw it 5 years ago. Dark. The lights were out. And all of a sudden, what I heard on the boat was people clapping. I heard you, if you were on the boat last night, you were clapping. And all of a sudden, my heart was lifted. Because I thought, we'll rebuild. We'll rebuild. And maybe the next time I come back, I'll actually be able to go in and be inspired again. Because you can't go into a building like that and walk out the same way. You can't go in that and come out and not think. You take a piece of her with you. But that's part of how you learn. Now, years ago, I decided that I wanted to be doing this for a living. I wanted to be a professional speaker and travel the world. I ran into a man, his name was Peter J. Daniels. I'd seen him speak in Vancouver with Og Mandino, who was the man who wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World and a whole bunch of other motivational books. And I went to hear Og, but I got to know Peter and we became friends. And he said, if you're ever down in Adelaide, look me up. So a month later I called him. And he showed up. He said, there's a little fish and chips place downtown Adelaide. I'll meet you for lunch. And I saw this gold Rolls Royce show up, chauffeured, and my friend Peter got out of the Rolls. And we had lunch. I call it my $5,000 lunch. Actually $7,500 because we spent 90 minutes, and he was charging $5,000 an hour. And at the time I thought, who would pay $5,000 an hour? And could you imagine earning that kind of money? Actually, it's pretty cool. It really is. The first time you break that point where you're making some decent money in this business, it's like, the only thing that's been stopping you is one of those invisible things that we talked about earlier, the barrier that we put in front of ourselves. in not seeing the value of who we are and what we bring to the table. But I sat with Peter in that little fish and chips place, and I said, you know, Peter, I have this dream that I want to travel the world, and I want to encourage people. I want them to get out of their comfort zones and grow. And he sort of chuckled at me. He said, Bob, I think your dream is maybe too small. And I went, what? And I think he saw that in my face, and he went on, and he was very gentle man. He said, Bob, let me explain to you how life works. You know? Let me explain to you how business works. In business, you always have to be ready for setbacks and challenges and detours and being rerouted. And he said, one of the things I've noticed that if you don't have a dream that's big enough, if it doesn't push you, if the passion for that dream doesn't push you, you're going to hit a roadblock and you're going to quit. Now, I didn't get the value of that at that time. I really didn't. I thanked him for it, and I went my way and toured Australia, came back. Years later, I got the secret of what he was saying. When the attack in New York happened in 9/11, and I watched the aftermath of that, I watched my speaking business, actually my speaking career, sputter and stop. So I used to just do things. I would speak, I get referrals, I speak, I get referrals. All of a sudden, I lost 5 engagements within 3 weeks of 9/11. And I shrugged it off, like no big deal. The following January, I went from January to June, I made $500. And it caught my attention. It scared the heck out of me, is what it did. And I thought, but I thought about quitting. I really have to admit, I really thought about quitting and actually getting a job, which is what my mom used to say when I was doing the speaker thing. One of the guys said the R word. My mom used to say, that's great, Peter, why don't you get like a real job? and so she heard me speak once, and then she said, I'm praying you're going to get lots more work. But, you know, it's just funny how that works, because we move ahead, we take on challenges, and then we find out that we can overcome the challenges, don't we? And when I decided to rebuild, I thought, I am going to look at this from a whole different perspective of being there as a service to business leaders and business organizations. We're going to add some value. We're going to make a website, a couple of websites that are resource-based, that are full of information, videos and articles and things that people can use to make their lives better. And we did that. I'm going to partner with other masters and people who know what they're doing. We started doing some online programs. We did an online program on leadership, and we did another one in sales that my friend Brian Tracy partnered with me on. They went on to do 6 figures a year, just because I asked. And we started doing joint ventures with other speakers, and I started writing books, more books, and more books, and learning how to market them, other than just what I'm doing on the stage. And a lot of that made a difference, because when 2008 happened, remember 2008, the economy was going really good, and then when 2008 happened, we were okay. We're still doing good. And we moved on from there. But that's what you need to look at when you're in this business, and this is what I tell people who are relatively new speakers. It is a speaking business. You have passion. You want to change the world. I understand that. I encourage that. But it's a business. At the end of the day, you still have to pay your bills. And if you've had suppliers that have done work for you, they expect to get paid. They don't expect, well, I'm waiting until I get a gig and then I'll pay you. You know, like you ordered some business cards. Well, you know, pay your bills. That means you have to be doing business. Yes, please. This is one of the things that you learn is technology is your friend, except when you're speaking. Yeah, you can be my clicker. Actually, this is what I see when I look out my front door in the fall. I'm living in a little village outside of Edmonton that is surrounded by farms. So this is what I see. Next slide. Hey, it's better than overheads. In the old days, we used to do, no, maybe you don't. But last month, I got a chance to do a lot of traveling. Actually, I do a lot of traveling, but this was more for fun. And I studied design when I was a lot younger. One of the ones we studied was Michelangelo. And I have to tell you, it is so exciting to actually be able to see the master's work in real life. The pictures don't do it justice. Michelangelo was famous as a sculptor in his 20s. He was a sculptor, he was an artist, he was an architect, a poet. He wrote 300 poems. But he did so much more. Next slide. So part of what we did is I was speaking in Barcelona, which is where I met Ian and Sarah and got involved in helping PSA Spain. They had their formation meeting last month. They're having their second meeting next week. So they're coming to join you soon. I hope so too. I told them, I said, I will teach you whatever I know, and then after the first 5 minutes, we'll do some other stuff. But I was so excited to get to Rome. You know, I thought about it. I almost got to Rome once when I was speaking in Iran, except that Air Italia was having things, so I ended up getting routed through London. So I had the book, I was all ready. So, but we had such a great time. We saw the Colosseum, we did the tours, we did the food, the gelato was to die for. I tell you, I haven't found a gelato place here yet, but we'll get it. But a friend of mine told me about a lady who did tours and gave us her name and stuff. So we met Milena just outside the Vatican Museum at 7 o'clock in the morning. And at 7:30, the doors opened. And we were the first ones in. Now, she's been doing this tour for 30 years. She's a master of her craft. And she told us stories about little things that the normal tours never heard. As for example, when we were in the Sistine Chapel and we're walking around going, it was amazing. I was watching my wife reacting to this. And folks, the pictures don't do it justice to being there for real. That's one of the reasons why I think that for us, videos won't ever totally replace us as speakers, because it's not the same. It's not the same as having a real live person right here with you as an audience member. But we're there, she told us little things like, see this spot over here, there's a little discoloration on the marble. That's where the stove goes when they select a pope. You know, black smoke, no pope, white smoke, pope. And she told me a story. She said Michelangelo was originally asked to do this, and he turned it down because he said, I'm a sculptor. And the Pope said, well, maybe I'll get Raphael to do it. That's one of his competitors. He said, okay, so I'm a painter. Competition can do wonders. It really can. And in he was in his 40s when he started this, 4 years to do this. And at 61, I came back and spent another 4 years doing the Last Judgment, which is on the one wall. That's dedication. That's commitment. And the masters are committed to their craft and to creating something that lasts beyond them, beyond their lifetimes. Next slide. Yeah, there you go. This is Moses. I put Moses on the little keeper card for you, which is out in the lobby, because it was the closest thing that Michelangelo I could actually get to. It was in a little church. Everything else was, you know, like David is so big you can't get to him, and the Pieta was like behind glass because somebody had, you know, damaged it. But Moses was right there. If I wanted, I could have reached out and touched him. And he was kind of sitting just like this, you know, he was ready to go. He was just, you know, I could just imagine, I could see the energy throbbing in his veins and the muscles, thinking he's going to spring up at any moment and take the books of law and throw them down on the misbehaving people of Israel. But he was there. He did. Michelangelo did that. He was, I think, somewhere between 38 and 40 from what I understand. Then the other one. Anybody recognize that?
Sure.
That's St. Peter's. Michelangelo was asked to come in and finish the design, redesign it, and build that at 71. And at 71, he started doing that. He worked on that until he died just before he turned 89. That was his dedication to his craft. That was his dedication to what he was doing in his art and making things happen. You know, and at 87, he gave me a quote that has made all the difference for me. At 87, having been a sculptor, an artist, an architect, he said, I'm still learning. At 87. When I heard that, I was in my 50s, and I thought, well, I still got time left. I can still do something, because I'm still learning. And that came in handy, because every time I made a mistake, and I've made a few, and each time I had a lesson to learn, I went, I'm still learning. I don't have to get it perfect the first time, like here. And neither do you, because you can still learn. Next one. Now this is just one small piece of the Sistine Chapel. It's called the Creation Ladder. Melinda told me it actually, they call it the mind of God. Because if you look at it, it's kind of like what God is in, superimposed in, is kind of like the shape of a mind. And what I took away from that is something that I want to share with you today. You and I are creators too. We have within us that creative spark that can make a difference in people's lives, that can create changes in the organizations that we lead and the ones that we speak to. Because we are, ourselves, artists of the spoken word. That's who we are. That's who you are. That's who I am. Artists of the spoken word. Our words are brushes that are dipped in rich colors, culture, and concept, to do broad strokes and maybe small definitive things to add color and depth on the minds of those who listen to us. Our words are also chisels to take on the blocks that stop our audiences from seeing who they are, from seeing the angel inside. I remember Michelangelo was once asked about the statue he did. How did you do that angel? He said, I saw the angel trapped in the stone, and I kept chipping away until the angel was released. And that's what we do. We use our words to inspire people to greatness, to dare greatly, to take chances, and to maybe make mistakes, but still learn from those mistakes. That's who you and I are. That's why we're here today. Next slide. Now I put this in because Wednesday this week I had to go see my favorite girlfriend. I have to let you know my wife is okay with this. I fell in love with her the first time I was here 10 years ago. And Irene's good with it because, well, she's been gone for like 400 or 500 years, so it's not really any competition. But I have to tell you a story that I heard about this that's just really interesting, is Leonardo never finished the Mona Lisa. He never turned it over to the patron that paid for it. In fact, he was constantly playing with it. In fact, he redid the smile, I've heard, 22 times. That dedicated was he to his craft and to perfection and making something of value. See, we can do that. We can bring that to what we do in our business. Next slide. Now, maybe something a little bit closer to home. This is a Lalong grocery store. It now resides in a little historical village outside of Edmonton. This store was my wife's great-grandfather's store. Alexander immigrated to Canada in 1890, sent for his wife later, and built a farm and built a community. And he started the store in 1920. It was kind of like the early 7-Eleven. Because in those days, it was like a 2 to 3 day trip to get into Edmonton to buy supplies. So he thought there must be a thing he could do in providing that. See, the Masters, this became a place, for example, the post office. People would come and talk. The farmers could come and complain about the weather. People would come and gossip. I mean, they tell stories. You know, it's like somebody said yesterday, we're talking about getting married and second marriages and stuff. I remember after Irene and I got married, somebody said, so is this your first marriage? And I thought for a second, I said, no, but this is my last marriage. I had a lady come up to me once and she said, you know, you look like my fourth husband. And I was being polite. I said, really? How many times have you been married? She said 3 times. This is Alex. He was 5 years old at this time. With the actor who's portraying his grandfather. And I thought about it in terms of mastery, in terms of people building community. This is where it fits for us. If we think back to NSA getting started with Bill Gove and Cabot Robert. And back in 1997, my friend Peter, or Warren Evans, helping to get started the International Federation for Professional Speaking, which became the GSF. That's us here today. 15 strong and more coming. One last slide and we're done.
Promise.
But I want to say one final thing in conclusion. We learn by doing. We're here because we want to learn. We're here because we want to grow. And I want to challenge you to keep doing that. Because the world needs what you have to offer. Each of you. And you never know where you might just become the next Michelangelo of motivation. Or the Leonardo of learning could be you. Or maybe the Picasso of possibilities. Think about it. All sounds